I was inspired to record this video by Morgoth's latest article, The Problem with Spencerism, which is something he's posted on his Substack page. And I don't want to just talk about Richard Spencer because I've spent a lot of time on Spencer, and his weird, the weird ideology that he now espouses, which is basically, he's still somehow this outlaw white nationalist, while at the same time agreeing with the establishment on just about every single issue. And he's lately come out in favor of black reparations as well. But I don't want to just focus on Richard Spencer himself. I want to talk about the entirety of the alt-right scene. And I guess I shouldn't say the entirety of the scene, but the predominant ideology of the alt-right scene. And maybe if Morgoth is saying the problem with Spencerism, I'm going to say the problem with alt-rightism in general. And I say this as somebody who was a part of the scene in some mode or manner, some conspicuous mode or manner. I mean, my name was associated with the alt-right to a degree that has not been to my professional benefit, and that's okay. I'm willing to absorb those blows. I'm willing to be on the most wanted list of groups like the ADL and the SPLC. That's perfectly fine with me. But I do want to comment on a certain aspect of the alt-right scene that I was never sympathetic with. I was never down with, and that is the strain of alt-rightism, which became very angry and incensed with libertarianism. I never related to that aspect of the alt-right scene, what's now called the dissident right scene. And it's not that I'm immune to seeing, it's not that I think critiques of libertarianism are just totally out of bounds. I'm well aware that there are many people who call themselves libertarians who are just simply degenerates. And whose libertarianism amounts to just them wanting to be left alone to indulge their degeneracy, and not wanting the state to interfere with their degeneracy. I'm well aware that those types of people are out there. People who are basically social liberals or leftists, in every conceivable way. And no, I'm not sympathetic with that shall we say, breed of libertarianism. But the aspect, the strain of libertarianism, which is anti-authoritarian, which is suspicious of authority, which, at the very least wants to hold the authorities' feet to the fire and say to them, how is what you're doing grounded in constitutionality? How is it grounded in lawfulness? In the laws enumerated, the specific laws enumerated by the Constitution. I've never felt any kind of hostility towards that. In fact, I have that has always been basically me. I have basically espoused that perspective. But there came to be, I think, especially around 2017, 2018 or so, there was this widespread contempt for people who talked about the Constitution. It was like, oh, you're a boomer if you draw attention to the Constitution, or if you're a constitutionalist. and I was never down with that. The whole boomer thing aside, I was never down with this endorsement of authoritarianism, this implicit, at least implicit, if not explicit, endorsement of authoritarianism that one found in the alt-right. And I felt like, or it seems to me, I shouldn't say it just feels this way, because I think this can be grounded in actuality, in observable trends. But I do think that for a lot of people, a lot of people went from being Ron Paul supporters as a part of their going from being Ron Paul supporters to being Trump supporters. They just became or extremely hostile towards libertarianism generally, and that was not my journey. That was not ever me. That was not ever the way that I thought or felt about the state, about authority in general. Now, am I just down on authority because authority is inherently bad? No. I believe in legitimate authority, but authority has to establish its legitimacy in order for me to respect it. And if respect my authoritah. The people who go around saying respect my authoritah, including the alt-right people who want you to bow and scrape before authority, the kind of authority that they believe in, that's a problem, because it opens a whole Pandora's box. If you just say authority can be, authority is just basically the will of the stronger. This sort of Nietzschean Darwinian strain that one finds among some people on the right. That's a real problem. That can be a problem, because the road that ultimately goes down is something that we've seen mapped out for us. Now, if you're still somebody who's on the alt-right, or the dissident right, as it's now called, as it's rebranded itself, and you have been observant, and you've seen the way in which so many people on the alt-right, not just Richard Spencer, but many, many other people, and I'm not going to name names here, but many prominent people on the alt-right just immediately just threw their weight behind the op of the last 2 years, just from the very beginning, from the start, from the get-go. They were down with suddenly the authorities forbidding us from living the kind of lives that we are entitled to live, from enjoying the kind of liberties that we are entitled by the Constitution and simply by in the words of the Constitution, endowed by our Creator to enjoy: the right to life, liberty, and property, and so forth. The glee with which these people just said, "Oh well, you all out there who are questioning this, you all out there who see a problem with this, who are protesting against this sudden and abrupt seizure of power, and this sudden and abrupt forbidding of people to be open for business, right? To run a business. No, the businesses have to close. You have to be relegated to your homes in many cases. You have to not associate, not be physically close to other people. This remarkably far-reaching repressive op, and I'm aware that in some places it went further than in other places. And where I live, it didn't. It was far less repressive than it was in other places in the country and in other places in the world. But from where I'm standing, if you went along with this crap and you continue to go along with it, for weeks and months, and to say, oh well, listen to the authorities, they know better than you, silly little man. And then when the time came and the authorities said, you better take this thing into your body, you better shoot this junk into your system at the risk of losing your job or various other social penalties, these same people said, yeah, listen to them, listen to the authorities, do what you're told, little man. And these people, who were, again, on the alt-right or the dissident right, but who went along with all of this, which is my understanding. I stopped following most of these people or listening to most of these people years ago, but it's my understanding that's basically how things went down. And even among the ones that I did continue to follow, there was at least some form of this, this strain of authoritarianism predominated, whereby these people, even though, my notion of them before all of this happened, my notion of them was that they would say, oh, well, we're going to put our people in charge, we're going to have our beer hall putsch or whatever, or our march on Rome, and then we'll establish our authority, and then we're going to be the authoritarians, and then we'll, what we'll say will go. But I didn't foresee these people actually saying, listen to Joe Biden and the Democrats, or whoever, listen to the people who have power and control right now. Do what you're told, or else you're just some silly, pathetic boomer, who believes in constitutionalism, constitution, or liberties, or rights, who believes, who wants economy. This whole thing of putting in front of a word or phrase as a way of mocking it, it's so cheap, it's so cheesy. So basically, if you're someone who has run interference for the authorities, and respect my authoritah. If you're someone like Richard Spencer, but he's not the only one who has embodied this. He's not the only one who has gone this route. In a way, I would say it's a slippery slope. The slippery slope fallacy, the slippery slope rhetoric is always a little tendinacious because one can say that anything is a slippery slope, or one can forecast that something is a slippery slope without merit. I know that's a problem, and that's the slippery slope fallacy. But I'm willing to say by now, after 2 years of this op, and now the latest op, whatever the current thing is, which Richard Spencer also supports. I don't know whether these other people who were down with the lockdown op on the alt-right or dissident right, I don't know if they're also down with the newest current thing. But I am willing to say that the slippery slope is not a fallacy, that once you embrace authoritarianism, once you say my principles are not grounded in anything but the quote-unquote will to power, well, someone like that is not too far away from basically endorsing that you lose all of your rights, all of your God-given liberties, just because the authorities said so. And we should trust the authorities. The authorities know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. You should believe them. You shouldn't be out demonstrating against them. You know, I don't know whether the dissident right were down on the truckers or whatever, or if they were against them because they were just, quote unquote boomers, or they didn't really, they were not they were not against, they were not fighting against the liberal left in the correct way, right? This was all a distraction from, I don't know, focusing on race or focusing on the perfidy of a particular ethnicity. But I'm prone to say if someone is authoritarian minded, they are, if someone has the authoritarian mindset, and it's not again your notion or your belief in authority, your idea of how authority is to function, is not grounded in something that is enumerated in something like a constitution, or in some vision of a transcendent order, but it's simply all about who's the strongest, who's got the most wealth and power, who's got the biggest guns, who's got the force, the greatest force behind them. I mean, what we see in the case of Richard Spencer and others, with their support of the op, is basically these people who are supposed to be against the system prostituting themselves to the system, making themselves slaves of the system, and worse than that, because you can do whatever you want with yourself, with your own thoughts, with your own ideology. You can you can follow whoever you want to follow, as foolhardy as that may be. But the really damaging part of it, the aspect of it that I am not inclined to forgive or forget, is how they made the authorities, the ruling authorities op their own, and how they made it so that you need to do what these people above us are telling us to do, and if you don't do it, then you are to be castigated. You're to be cast out. You're going to be called things like a boomer who believed in the Constitution and all of that. I'm not inclined to forget or forgive any of these people who went along with any of this, and you shouldn't be either. That is my appeal right now. So I'm taking Morgoth's argument, and I'm not endorsing definitely anything. I'm not saying Morgoth and I are definitely on the same page in every way, because I wouldn't presume that about him or anyone else. I do know that Morgoth initially was down with with the op, but then it didn't take him very long to see that his initial perspective was incorrect, and he changed. But there have been people who haven't changed, who have gone through this entire outrage, and they're still the same. They're still saying that you're just a silly, stupid, Constitution boomer if you don't see things the same way that they do. And people like that, I don't know. I'm not with them. They're not with me. As far as I'm concerned, we've never stood together. You've never been of the same mindset that I have been of. And I'm afraid that extends to much of the alt-right or the dissident right. So there you go. Let me know what you think below. Thanks for watching. My name is Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.